creating your list of those moments, those things where you felt like the biggest challenges in your life. That way, when you're going through challenge, you can go back to your cookie jar, take out a cookie, look at the shit you've been through, and it can give you fuel and inspiration to be like, I can get through this. I've gotten through this whole list.
Yeah.
I can get through this.
All right, how's it going, everybody? Xander Fryer, CEO and founder of High Impact Coaching here with our Director of Operations and Head of Client Success, Joshua Church. Joshua, welcome to the party.
Hey, glad to be at this party. It's a fun party to be at.
You look like you're in, like you've got some nice leather-bound books behind you, a nice bookshelf of rich mahogany. We're like living in Anchorman right now.
Yeah, this room reeks of rich mahogany. It's not a Zoom backdrop. This is real. I'm at my parents' house right now because I'm grateful to be at my parents' house while I'm dealing with a bit of a moldy situation in my old apartment. Just discovered.
Yeah, what happened?
Yo, ask and you shall receive is all I gotta say, man. Be specific when you're asking for things and you're manifesting. Like, be specific. So I came back from doing this vision quest in the desert a couple weeks ago, and I had this clarity of like, I really want to minimalize my lifestyle, minimize my expenses, my belongings, my things. Once my lease is up, I want to get out of my lease and go to even a smaller place, or maybe go nomadic for a little bit. And then I discover black mold in my apartment, which is what was making me sick for the past 2 months, which is great to know that. And now I'm out of my lease and I might be forced to discard all of my belongings. And
burn all of your shit, basically.
Burn all my shit. So basically, ask and you shall receive, because this is exactly what I've asked for.
I love it, man. That's a great segue to what we want to be talking about today. We're going to be digging into how to be successful during tough times. So speaking of tough times, you just spent the last couple of months trying to figure out why you've been so sick and fatigued, and then now getting kicked out of your place and having to burn all your shit. But I think a lot of coaches have been going through a lot of tough times recently. There's just been a lot of crap going on. There's been COVID, there's been the election, there's been all sorts of tensions in politics and polarization going on. And not to mention, we're getting into the holiday season. So there's stresses of family. There's, trying to get their business up and running. So I'm really excited to dig into what it takes to be successful during tough times. Cause you and I both know that, like, you could have the perfect tactics, strategies, and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't have it up here and you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the right resources, you're going to die during tough times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to be too fun.
Not going to be too fun. So I want to start to dig in, and I just kind of want to open it up as a discussion between you and I. Yeah. Obviously, you work with, we were just talking about it. When Joshua and I first started working together, we had like 15 clients at a time, right? Mm-hmm. At any one point in time, we'd be working with like 15 people. Now at any one point in time, we've got, somewhere between 110 and 130 at any one point in time. So you've been working with a ton of people right now. So like, what are some of the stresses that everybody's facing in the coaching space?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of stresses that people are facing in the coaching space.
There's always stresses too.
There always is, especially now, which is also especially why it's most needed for coaches now more than ever. Like, that's the thing I look at. It's like,
that's a good point, right? It's like, the world as a whole is stressed and sick and tense, and like, that's why coaches are needed more now than ever.
Right. And I mean, we talk about it too. It's like, whenever we're going through tough times, we've got to show up even stronger for our clients, because everybody needs that somebody to lean on, to look up to during tough times. And so for all of our coaches, we need to be those people for everybody.
I think it's so interesting because, like, as coaches, like, like, I don't care who you are. If you sign up to be a coach, you sign up to be a leader. Right. Yeah. And that, like, leaders are strong in tough times.
It's a risk. You have to be willing to accept the risk of leadership is what it comes down to. And at times like this, and when there's challenging times.
Is it a risk or is it a burden? A burden of leadership.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's times like this that are testing. And I always love it because it's just kind of like, every time you decide, you want to do something, or you have this vision of growing this business or serving people, you'll always get tested with like, the way I see it is the universe is kind of just like, you sure, bro? Like, are you sure? Right? It's just like, you really want to do this?
You want a 6-figure coaching business? You sure?
Are
You sure
you
you know
ready
what
to
it's
handle the 6-figure problems that come with the 6-figure
Yeah.
coaching business?
You want a
right?
7-figure coaching business? You sure? You
Yeah,
ready to handle 7-figure problems?
exactly. 8-figure, right? It's the same thing. It just keeps
Same
going
thing.
up and up, and you've got to be willing to accept it and be like, cool, this is what I've asked for. This is what I signed up for. This is my time. Like, this is my time to shine.
Yeah. So like you're, I love working with you, and you're one of the most like resilient and like relentless people that I know when it comes to like training for Ironmans and busting your knees and legs, and like black mold can't kill you, like just all this stuff. Like what makes you so resilient in these tough times? Like talk to me about that, because that's something I want everybody to learn how to embody.
I appreciate that. It's something for me from a young age. I was born fighting. Like when I was born, my lung collapsed as I was in the elevator coming down, and they had to do like an emergency. The doctor had to like make an incision, stick a straw into my lung to blow up my lung, inflate my lung. And they didn't know how. They thought I might have suffered brain damage because of they didn't know how long I wasn't getting oxygen in my brain.
And now we know that you suffered brain damage.
Yeah, exactly. That's my dad's line every time. My dad likes to say, like, certainly now that's definitely
it's very clear now.
It's clear. It's just a little softball lob up to my dad to just knock out of the park every single time. But and then as I got older, I had some serious injuries and illnesses. Physically, like I've always faced a lot of physical challenges. And for me, the thing that kind of leads to that resilience is understanding that every time there's a challenge, or wherever there's challenge, there's also the overcoming of challenge.
Yeah.
And we're not defined by our challenges. We see our coaches talking about this all the time. Like you are not your illness. You're not your diagnosis, but we're defined by how we respond and overcome our challenges. Because every time there's a challenge, we are faced with the opportunity to react or respond to it. And most people just react to it and fall to it, or you can use it as an opportunity to respond.
An opportunity to grow, an opportunity to become better.
Totally.
I love what you said too. You said, I was born fighting. Right. Yeah. I think that's so crucial though, because I think, and everybody can take this however they want to take this, but our world is fucking soft.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Like our world is soft now compared to like, obviously compared to, like a couple millennia ago, or like a few millennia ago when we were like cavemen, like fighting off saber-toothed tigers and shit. Like, dude, you're legit worried about being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Do you know how terrifying that would be? Like every day and every night. But even like, even like 500 years ago, like I've been, what's that? I've been watching Outlander with Maddie, and it's like, it's fucked up. But like just to see like, 300 years ago, how brutal life was like, even just 300 years ago, like our world today is very, very soft.
50% of people would die from murder like a few hundred years ago. That's not crazy. That long ago.
That's crazy. Right. Crazy. But like, now I think a big part of this is like, we've grown up. A lot of us have grown up pretty soft. Maybe I didn't have a collapsed lung when I was, when I was first born. Maybe I didn't have any crazy challenges. And now, when small challenges are put in front of me, it's just like, but that's so hard, but that's so difficult. So like, what do you like? Give me your insight on that.
Yeah. So I think that, everybody has challenges. The question is, if we're not choosing our challenges are going to find us. So when I look at like building coaching business, or
can you say that one more time? Cause I don't want that to get overlooked.
Yeah. What did I say?
If we're not choosing our challenges are going to choose.
Our challenges are going to choose us. Right. So we can choose our challenges. That's why like working on this business with you and serving the people we're here to serve, it's an inspiring challenge. But it's inspiring. I'm called to serve in this way. And so I'm
just so you guys are aware, whenever I like find something really difficult in the business, I give it to Joshua and I go, hey, Joshua, do you want to do this? And he goes, no, but I'm up for the challenge. Let's do this. Right. So he is that guy.
Yeah, totally. So it's about finding those challenges that inspire you, because there's always challenges, and there will be challenges. But when you choose the challenges, then you can have, there's a purpose behind it or a reason behind it. And for me, the thing that helps me through any challenge is like, I have this belief that like, I really, really believe this, and maybe this is not for everybody, but for me, I really believe that like, I view myself as just an instrument. Like I'm an instrument for God, as I call it, call whatever you want. I believe I'm an instrument, and I'm here to serve as many people in whatever way I'm here to be used as possible. And there's a faith and surrender in that. And I know that every challenge that I go through always brings me a valuable nugget or insight through the overcoming of it and I'm always able to help other people through that. So the way I see it, it's like, okay, cool. I had tore my MCL, last winter skiing, and it's like, this sucks, but I know something good's going to come of this. It's going to help other people. So it's kind of just like, I surrender, and I know this is for something bigger.
Yeah. When you think of yourself like an instrument or a tool, like you just mentioned, I'm not trying to call you a tool, but when you think of yourself like an instrument like that, it's like each of these things is just a sharpening, right? It's a hardening or a sharpening of you as that instrument to allow you to perform your duty better. Right. And I love that, because I think that's one of the things that I remember. I remember when I got my DUI, like back when I was in Air Force ROTC, and I got kicked out of the Air Force, lost my pilot slot, like all sorts of shit. But the thought that kept going through my head is like, this fucking blows, but this is happening for a reason. How can this hardship, how can this difficult thing that's happening to me, I just lost the next 20 years of my life that I thought I was going to have. How can I help other people with this? Right. And if you always bring it back to like, how can this help others? Like every hardship is a gift almost.
Really. It really is. It's like, that's the way that I certainly see it. And that's the way you have to see it too. It's
well,
like,
if you see it any other way, that's what makes hardships really shitty.
Right. Exactly. Because what's the alternative? Would you rather go through life believing the alternative or not? You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I think it's so interesting, because I always ask myself, I'm like, do some of the things that I believe, like, are they real? And I'm like, to be honest, if I believed the other way that most people do, it would just suck and wouldn't be fun. So I don't care. Right. It's like, I have to believe that. I have to believe that this is for the good of the universe. I have to believe that every hardship makes me stronger and better. I have to believe that there's positive for other people that comes from this. Because if I don't, I just end up a negative, unhappy, bitchy, moany person.
Right. And for the people that don't, like, my question is, do you hope you're right? Like, at the end of the day,
like for everybody that believes like life is tough and you're gonna fail and nobody can do this, it's like, are you hoping you're correct?
Yeah.
Because if you are correct, then great, good for you. But life fucking blows.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what it comes down to, man.
That's too funny, man. Well, I just did an interview on your podcast last week. Right. So I'm gonna ask you kind of the same question that you asked me. Since we're talking about beliefs and we're talking about everything around this, like if you were to be able to impart one belief on everybody out there, and you were able to impart this belief from yourself to everybody out there, what would that belief be?
Yeah. Great question. Real simple. The first thing that comes to my head, it's this belief that things happen for you, not to you. Like, as simple as it is. Things are happening for you, not to you. Things are happening for me, not to me. That belief, and it always gets challenged, and every challenge that comes, so it's like, it's so great to believe, and we're having this podcast and we're talking and everything's good, but then when shit hits the fan and when you're
in it, when you're
in it, it's so much harder. But what I found is that every challenge, like, it's a muscle that gets stronger. The belief, because the belief is just a thought we get really good at thinking, so that we don't need to think that thought anymore. It just becomes automatic. Yeah. So it's a muscle, and I've found that muscle actually fires up. And when I'm going through this black mold situation, I'm just going to guess that a lot of people would be probably pretty upset, and at least more upset than I am going through the situation. Because the first thing, I'm like, hey, I asked for this. Like, this is for me. Like, this is a gift.
I asked to get out of my lease and to have less shit. Yeah, and I am now forced out of my lease because I got black mold toxicity and I have to burn all my stuff.
Exactly. But it's like, well, on the back end, think about what I'm gaining, think about what I'm saving, think about how this might help me. It's another chapter in my book. Life is a movie. If you don't start viewing your life as a movie, then you got to reassess. Like, this is a movie.
Can you run me through a situation? Maybe there's a situation, obviously this black mold one, because I remember you came onto the team call, and you came onto the team call with a big grin on. You get like a huge smile, like, hey, I've got to burn all my shit, and I'm grateful for this learning lesson, because you're weird, right? But let's go back. Let's go back maybe some months, some years. Has there been a time where that was like difficult for you to like, you were really in the shit, and you had to realize somehow this is, like, as much as I hate it, as much as I just want to keep crying and keep whining, somehow I have to realize that this is for me, not to me.
Absolutely. The first thing that comes up was in high school. I had to get a total knee reconstruction surgery after a football injury that tore my ACL, LCL, MCL, and meniscus all in one shot in my left knee. And it was about a 9-month recovery process. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to totally get back up. And when it happened, like I knew I was going to miss my basketball season, which was like a massive bummer. And at that point in high school too, I wasn't really thinking this way, like maybe scratching at the surface of some of these beliefs. But I just remember like being so down and in the dumps about that and being like, how is this possibly doing it? How can this possibly get me towards anywhere that I want to be? And I remember like, as I was like forcing myself to like walk again and to get motion back through the pain, like I would take like plastic straws that we had in the kitchen and I would just chew down on them because the pain was so excruciating as I would walk. And like, it sounds weird, but like I found like a home in that pain. Like I found myself in that pain in a really weird way. And like this hardening or the sharpening of like, let's lean into it. Yeah. And that was able to provide me enough comfort to know like, this is me, right? Like this is me and myself. Like it's me. Like I got myself and I got my own back right now. And that led to just buying myself enough time to start to see the dots connect looking back, because then I ended up getting into drama and I ended up getting the lead role in a Shakespeare play that was one of the most incredible experiences of my entire high school career, and all the relationships that formed from that and all the things that started coming of like, wow, this was actually a blessing. But it just bought me enough time to start to look back and be like, oh, I see how this has provided some benefit to me now.
I think that's so important. Like this is something that I think everybody should do. Like every one of us at some point should probably like, maybe by the time you finish listening to this podcast, this show, like just write down a list of like 10 major issues or problems or like really shitty things that have happened in your life. For me, it's like, it's like my DUI, it's, the death of my uncle, the death of my best friend, like all sorts of different things that have gone on. Right. But like write them down and then see if like now looking back at it, see if you could find the blessing in it, the golden nugget, the learning lesson that has helped you become the person you are today. Because it is a lot easier when you start to look back at it and you start to build that evidence. It's like when I was sitting, I remember exactly what you're talking about, because when I was I remember sitting in the drunk tank when I got my DUI. It's just fluorescent lights. I know that I'm going to get kicked out of the Air Force because that's just what happens when you get a DUI. So I know that my future is shot, right? And I'm just sitting there in the drunk tank for like whatever it was, 12 hours, and still they'll let me out the next morning, right? And I'm just sitting there and I'm just thinking, how on earth could this possibly be like for good? Right? I just lost my entire life's work. I've been working up to this point for like 8 years to get to this, right? And now it's just gone in one decision that I made. How on earth could this possibly be beneficial for me? And I look at it now, right around 10 years later, and I'm like, oh my God, I would have been in the Air Force. I would have had don't get me wrong, I would have had a blast flying planes, but I would have been on a totally different path than what I'm doing right now. And like, I see how that was, but it's 10 years later.
Right.
So
you have that faith now, looking back, you can use that to build. And it's so funny. You said this is literally an exercise we did on the mindset call with our clients this week. I brought this up and I call it the cookie jar. This comes from David Goggins, his book, Can't Hurt Me, which I love. He talks about this idea of the cookie jar, of like creating your list of those moments, those things where you felt like the biggest challenges in your life. That way, when you're going through challenge, you can go back to your cookie jar, take out a cookie, look at the shit you've been through, and it can give you fuel and inspiration to be like, I can get through this. I've gotten through this whole list.
Yeah.
I can get through this. And you can start to see it brings evidence to this belief. The other thing that I found that really reinforces that belief of things happening for you, not to you, is you have to build evidence. You have to build your case. Yeah. It's like a court. I think of it like a court case.
It's literally a court case. You have to build like undeniable evidence.
Exactly.
This is the truth. And that's what keeps you believing it.
Definitely. And it takes constant reminding of that. It's a constant case you're building, but it's certainly like the more reps you get, the more it actually happens. And I shared with the group that one of my more recent injuries was when I tore my MCL skiing. Literally the first thought after I tumbled, I hit a branch and felt the pop, I came up. The first thought, I shit you not, was I can't wait to see what good this is going to come from this.
That's crazy.
The first thought.
I told you were crazy.
I know. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh shit, I'm crazy. Like I actually realized that. But then I thought, I guess if you just say this stuff, you talk about it enough, you believe it enough, then it actually happens.
Yeah. You keep having, and that's the thing. It's like everybody spends their life trying to avoid these hard times.
Right.
Right. But just like you're talking about, it's like if you lean into the hard times, if you actually go searching for them, what did you say? If you don't choose your challenges will choose you. But if
That's
you're
it.
choosing to challenge yourself, if you're choosing to do the things that scare you and break stuff and fail and fuck stuff up, and every time you survive, you just have this like wall of things that you've completed to the point where you've programmed yourself so solidly that you go tear your ACL, and the first thought is like, oh, this is cool. Like, wonder what great things are going to come from this.
It's like that meme where it's like, this is fine. The fire's burning in the background. It's like, this is fine. Everything's fine. But like in a serious way, like not in a sarcastic way. That's the,
Oh my God.
that's the way. And the other thing on that note too, is that a lot of times, like we perceive that we don't want any challenges. Like, oh, it'd be nice if we didn't have any of these challenges. And that it just doesn't exist that way, because there will always be challenges. And if you're not choosing them, then the challenges will choose you. But think about it. Like, I mean, we were when we were doing our breath work with Forbes the other day, you mentioned it as well, that resonated with me, which is like, you need some stress, you need some challenge. Cause like, what's the alternative? You're just sitting on your couch like a veggie couch potato, like doing nothing. Like, that's depressing. That sucks. That's not fun at all.
Literally, yeah. Like the lack of stress is what creates depression.
Right.
The lack of challenge, the lack of stress is actually what creates depression.
Right. And lack of growth. So yeah, that's all tied in there.
Crazy. So obviously constantly challenging yourself, constantly pushing yourself. What else do you do to like cultivate this mindset to help you through tough times?
Yeah. I am constantly inspired by people who are sharing their stories with it as well. Like, it's the most inspiring thing, because like, it's easy for me to talk about from my experience as well, but when I can listen to someone who's been through the most horrific things or the most insane trauma that I could never imagine, or unspeakable acts of violence or trauma, and they can tell me the same thing, it just reaffirms that belief and that strength in myself.
Crazy, because it's almost like you're borrowing their resiliency just by hearing their story. It's one, like you talked about, it's that wall of evidence.
Yeah.
If I can go hear about their story of resiliency, and I can do that with another 10 people, that's 10 more pieces of evidence that this is true.
Totally. And like, are you listening to the music that you listen to? Are you watching the movies that you're watching? Are you listening to what the actors are saying and telling you? Like, there's clues all around. Like, people are telling us the stuff. It's like, are you actually doing that? So one of the things for me that I always start every day with is like, I want to be inspired and learn something noteworthy, like literally something that I have to take out my phone and write a note about, because I'm like, oh, that's really good, or that's inspiring, or that hits me differently. And so
that's the reason that I actually just watch Moana every morning.
Yeah, dude. All you need to do is stick with the Disney Channel movies.
All you need to do is watch a Disney movie this is your mindset work moving forward. Watch a Disney movie every morning, and you will get your daily dose of faith, relentlessness, resiliency, and all the beliefs. Joy, yeah.
Singing, dancing, like all the above. Sign me up for the Disney movies, man. That's what it's about. It's really what it's about. So that, and then it takes effort. I'm constantly seeking out these challenges as well, because again, if I'm not seeking them out, they're going to seek me out. So I'm seeking out these challenges. When I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last summer, it was very challenging, especially on that last day when you're going up to past 19,000 feet. Altitude sickness I was struggling really hard with altitude sickness. And it was like, every step was like, this, I don't know if I can do this, right? Like, it was challenging, and I got to the top, and it was like this relief. And the insight that came to me there was, adversity, stagnation cannot exist when there's challenge or adversity. If you want to overcome stagnation, challenge yourself. So it takes effort to get out of your comfort zone, but every time you do it, every time you seek out these challenges, that's how you grow. There's growth. It's going to the gym. It's the same thing. So it's just about constantly putting yourself into these, constantly going out of your comfort.
It's like literally, as you just said that, right? Stagnation cannot exist during adversity, right? So if you're stagnant and you want out of stagnation, you have to put yourself in some form of challenge or adversity. It literally brings me back to like what's going on in the economy right now with COVID and the pandemic. And like, everybody's like, oh my God, like, money's hard and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But you look back at the last century, and it's something like 57% of the Forbes 500 was built or founded during economic recessions and depressions, right? It's like literally more than half of the Fortune 500 right now was founded during economic recessions and depressions, during adversity, during a challenging time. It creates this, it's interesting because, yeah, it creates hardship, but it also creates this beautiful situation that forces people to become innovative. It forces people to get out of their comfort zone and take decisive action when they would have never done it before because they were so comfortable. So it actually forces innovation, it forces evolution and revolution, and it creates like a beautiful growth process right afterwards. It's funny. I was just putting together an interview for Forbes, and this was one of the things that we were talking about was like I do not feel bad about the recession right now. And they were like, what? Why? I was like, because from every recession, right, comes something beautiful, some beautiful growth, some beautiful innovation, and some beautiful change that could not have been possible had this not happened.
Yep. That's it. Necessity is the mother of innovation. And this is the story of human being. This is actually how we've evolved. It's like these moments of big challenge or adversity that force us to adapt. It's always the catalyst. So it's like when I see challenge, challenge and opportunity are synonymous to me.
Yeah.
And
yep.
seeing that is, and that's hard to look at. Like that you need to really, really fucking believe that if you want to, it's not just a belief you can take on half-assed. It's like, you got to really own up to that in all areas of your life. You got to really look yourself in the mirror with that one. But that's something that I'm constantly working on. It's like wherever there's challenge, there's also opportunity. Wherever there's adversity, there's also the overcoming of it. So it's up to us,
man. Dude, I love it. This has been super helpful. I'm sure everybody's going to get a ton from this. If you were to just give some like last wise words of wisdom to all the coaches out there that might be going through tough times or challenging clients or a lot of stress in their environment, what would you tell them?
Go watch Moana and any Disney Channel movie you can. And no, but like, let's look at that for real though, for a sec. Like at the end of the day, your heart's beating. Like at the end of the day, and look back at what you've overcome in the past because you've survived 100% of what you've been through. You've thrived. You've overcome everything. I also believe that we're not giving any challenge that we cannot handle because that's just everybody that's alive, every single person, all the evidence supports it.
You've survived everything that come to your direction at this point, unless you're dead, which you're probably not watching this or listening to this podcast.
Right.
But if you're alive listening to this, then you have survived all of the challenges that have come your direction.
Yeah. So trust yourself, have some faith in yourself, have some faith that you can and will persevere and that you will be stronger on the other side.
I love it, man. Too good. Too good. Thank you very much, Joshua. For everybody out there in podcast land, if you want to catch these live, just go to xanderfryer.com/FB group to join our Facebook group of over 4,500 people and actually catch the videos of this. For everybody out there who needs some help, maybe getting their business, their coaching business up and running, if you want our help, go ahead and go to xanderfryer.com/programs. And you can check out some of the programs we have, see if we can help you get to that 6-figure mark, or if you're already at 6 figures, get to that 7-figure mark. All right. Joshua, thanks again, man.
Thanks, guys. Take care.